Love is no longer a blueprint, an instructional guide, or something that we mirror our parents' generation. Love is becoming more fluid than ever. And today's episode, we're going to dive in on how you can cultivate your very own version of love and romance, whether you're single, in a relationship, pursuing someone, or even in a situationship. This episode is for everybody. And if you're new here, hello, my love. Welcome to Love and Lattes, where we sip on deep conversations about love, relationships, self-discovery, sexual health, and more. I'm your host, Victoria Icenhower, and today we're going to dive into a topic that is so relevant with Valentine's Day coming up. We're going to talk about how modern love is evolving and how you can cultivate your own version of romance. So for many of us, especially myself, we kind of grew up with this idea or idealized version of what love is, quote, supposed to look like. And let me tell you, I don't blame Disney. Disney is not the only thing that, kind of misinterpreted my version of it. And I have to say, I think my parents were quite surprised. My goodness, it was like June 2022 when I came over. I know they were expecting to hear, you're going to be grandparents. And instead, I was like, I'm delivering divorce papers. And to be honest with you, it's been quite the journey since, navigating that situation and learning to love myself in order to cultivate and experience the relationships and the dating scene. All in all, it's been very important to recognize that you have the ability to learn and cultivate your own version of love. And it's very important that you do that before you put all this pressure onto your partners or your friends. You need to learn, what does love mean to you? Now, let's kind of circle back about how love is evolving. Nowadays, nobody's looking at marriage as this, one stop, one all be all checklist. It's no longer becoming an obligation. Now it's becoming more of a choice. Same thing goes for monogamy. Monogamy used to be just a kind of like a very normalized, situation, whether you are interested in this type of relationship dynamic or not. And now we're seeing more people pursuing other folks while having a partner at home. Now, this kind of dynamic is also, it's not for everybody. This isn't to say you should try it. You need to check in with yourself and find out what your values are. Personally, I don't share well with others. So once we're in it, we're in it. So anyway, the reason why I wanted to create this episode, especially around this time, because a lot of folks, and I'm going to put myself out there too, when it came to Valentine's Day, it was definitely something I wasn't looking forward to. I wasn't even enjoying chick flicks, to be honest. And I realized over time, throughout my journey, that the reason why I was always like turned off or just disgusted by chick flicks or the thought of Valentine's Day is because I never experienced that kind of romance, that level of love around that time period and even outside of it. And so with Valentine's coming up and now, it's 2025 and I'm in my romance era, I'm in my self-lover era, I'm in my lover girl era, and I know a lot of people want to do the same. Everybody deserves to be loved and cultivating relationships that leave them feeling filled and honored. And we need to learn that. We need to learn that for ourselves. So if you are single, if you are in partnership, if you are in a situationship, grab your coffee. I got my matcha here. Wish I could tell you the name of it, but I try so many. Mm. And let's kind of get into it. So I have a question for you. When was the last time you took yourself out? You dated yourself? You pursued yourself? I'm being very serious. And if you're in a partnership, if you're dating someone, this includes you. If you're a parent, please listen carefully. And if you're single and you're a workaholic, because let me tell you, I enjoy and love my job. I love working. It's so easy to forget that you are a human being. And when the time comes when we do have time off, or we do suddenly have this vacation, or we're pursuing someone or want to be pursued, we put all this pressure on other parties. It's like this unrealistic expectation of, well, you need to take care of me because I have been working very hard. And yes, while that is nice, it's also a bit unfair. You need to understand and know, recognize even whether you're single or in partnership or situationship, this is the moment where you are learning more about yourself. You need to cultivate space for yourself because in this process of learning, in this, time to romance yourself, it's very important to know what you like. It's so easy for us to get lost in the sauce of being pursued or being in a situationship because, deep down we want it to really work. We want to, have this emotional connection with someone. And it's really hard to, that's why we like talk about authenticity, which was in our previous episode with Cecilia. It's important for us to be honest, be upfront with ourselves and the person in our lives. So if there's like, understanding what your love languages are, it's like, hey, I really like it when you compliment me. I would love to hear that more. And then on your own, you can have sticky notes around the house. Maybe your love language is physical touch. And then it's like, did you know the average human needs 8 hugs a day to regulate their system? That's hard. That's difficult in these times. It's very difficult. So imagine, being in partnership where you're working all the time and you don't get to touch them or you don't make time to be with them. Or when you're with your friends, it's like how often are you hugging them or with your family? Are you hugging and keeping them close and giving them a little bit of love? The world could use a little bit of love right now. Anyway, so first off, you want to identify what does love look like for you and when was the last time you treated yourself? You advocated yourself for a little bit of self-love, whether it was going to the movies or taking yourself to your local coffee shop, going shopping, booking a mini getaway, or maybe just sitting down in your favorite chair, wearing your favorite sweatpants, reading a very scandalous book, because I'm here for that too. It's important because even though it sounds super easy, and you might be thinking like, well, Victoria, like I don't have time. Yes, you do. And this is where we need to pull up your calendars, take a look at what's pulling in all of your time, and start implementing these date nights. And date nights mean the date nights for you, the date nights for your partner. And if you're in a situationship, you need to navigate this timeline because when it comes to situationships, those are, those are kind of on a time crunch because after a while, you are going to be emotionally invested in this person. And that's the other thing. When it comes to cultivating your own version of love and romance, it helps rebalance your emotional well-being. If you know what you want and what you love, it creates a very fulfilling sense of purpose and confidence and just all around it feels damn good. Like, yeah, I deserve this. I love this. But no one is going to be able to bring that to you. The world is not going to understand that's what you want if you don't start kind of putting it out there and creating it for yourself. That can start, if you're new to this journey and you're like, hey, I'm still kind of new to this. I'll use an example. When I went through my divorce process and I was separating, I immediately had to, the reality checks in, like you got to get a place to live, got to figure out, make sure all the funds are right. You got to, really prioritize survival. Survival kicks in, right? We're going to take a few weeks, maybe even some months after that. When you finally get into a safe rhythm, you have a routine, you have your needs, your survival needs are, you're met, you're fed, you're safe, you're secure, right? So now it's who do you want to be? What do you want when it comes to love and relationships? And again, everybody is different. Everybody has different versions of what they're interested in. And even in that timeline, I I met so many unique and beautiful people from the kink community, from the pride community. And I really did learn that there are so many versions of love out there. And it just blew my mind that, at such a young age, it's so easy to kind of fall into these programs of what we see when we're growing up, which redefines, our relationships. And I can definitely create an episode later about that. And I'm talking like daddy and mommy issues. And when I say issues, I mean trauma bonding, and that's another beast. Okay, so let's set that aside for a minute. And then there's also the exposure to Disney movies and seeing this expectation of like the knight in shining armor. It's like, oh, all I have to do is play dead and I'll be fine. That is not realistic. If deep down you're an independent, badass babe, you know what I mean? Like if you're very gung-ho and you want to build a business, playing dead is not going to work for you, okay? And so, if we are building up this lifestyle, such as myself, when I was building up my new lifestyle, I told myself that I wouldn't settle for less. I wouldn't allow myself no more to accept the breadcrumbs, that I was going to pursue myself and give myself the romance that I had been craving for a very long time. Now, I say all that, and I definitely fell on my face many times, and it's going to happen to you. It's just part of being a human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to be easily pursued by you're beautiful and I like you. And it's so easy, and that's fine. That's just part of life. Like, as long as you can walk away and learn something, it's going to be all right. If you walk away and know, next time I'm going to say no, because for every no, you give the world takes a step back and goes, okay, you want something more. I got you. I'm going to come back with something else because you're choosing you. And in this process of romancing yourself, and even from my own, from just learning on, what do I need? Like, what do I want to create? And secretly, despite me always being like, ew, I don't want to watch a chick flick, that's dumb, and rolling my eyes and stuff. It was because deep down I wanted that. I wanted the pursuing. I wanted the flowers. I wanted the romantic dinners and the touching and the just the oozy feelings and all the good stuff. It sounds super corny, but I know you're in for it. It's fine. This is a safe space. So I literally started creating that version, that life for myself. I started taking myself out, lunches, dinners, and then eventually got really big, and I ended up taking myself on my first international trip to Paris, and that was very scary. I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm not telling you that you need to do that immediately. You need to kind of understand and create, whether that's through Pinterest boards or journaling, what does romance look like for you? What is it that you want? You can be picky. You can design any kind of style or version of romance for yourself. And I started buying myself flowers. I have fresh flowers in my home at least every week. I light candles. At that point, in my first apartment, I had a bath. So I would take baths at least once a week. And I found, just how lovely it was to be loved by me, to love myself and learn, the different, things that really truly brought me joy. And that's why, like, for myself, like, I really love physical touch and quality time. That quality time was the bubble bath and sipping my champagne. It was going to Paris and eating a baguette in a cafe, watching the world go by. And soon enough, I recognized that I was like, wow, it was something that I never allowed myself to have because I was putting this on someone else who, did not share the same values as me. And that's something else. That's why communicating is very important. And also, it's important for you to, create this experience and understanding for yourself first. And that also includes learning, about self-pleasure, giving myself that space and learning to, kind of grow. And, I went through my own process of forgiving myself and letting go of these different, pings of shame and guilt for going through a divorce. Because again, In my family, nobody has ever done this before. Nobody has ever, started a business and then divorced and now is living independent in the city. Like it's foreign. So I came up with a lot of, ancestral shame and guilt, and it's very hard. And part of that process and that healing process is learning, how can I implement these new ingredients to, make sure that when the next time comes, I'm going to be ready. And you're never going to be ready. That's the best part, though. Isn't that so exciting? Like you'll never know when it's coming. And I'm saying this now because that was in 2022. It is 2025. And I myself, as I've said, I've traveled across the world. I started, traveling is a love language for me now. So I still to this day, I like candles. I've got flowers in my house right now. We've got red roses, and the candle of the week is espresso martini. So it smells like coffee in my house as I sip my matcha. um, Business has been accelerating. So sometimes I need to literally schedule or step back and recognize, like, I can't remember the last time I took myself out to dinner or the last time I really enjoyed my own self-pleasure practice. Now, I do live in a different location and my home does not have a bath. So I've learned different other ways that I can cultivate romance. And wow, this whole story, it really is for you to recognize that it does take time. This is not going to be an overnight thing. You're not going to watch a TikTok or read an article and be like, suddenly I'm a romantic. It's like, no, not really. Um, you need to understand that your own version of love is going to change. And this is how it changed for me. 2022, I was divorced, independent, and hustling to survive and healing. In 2023, I remember, getting ready to put myself out there again and just really pushing this agenda that I had to be taken care of. And then by the end of the year, I was like, wow, that really puts a nasty taste in my mouth. And I remember just knowing that I was like, that's just not who I am, really. And then 2024, I definitely was kind of in and out of the dating scene. I didn't do, I had the apps for a short period of time. However, it became very clear that I would much rather enjoy my life and let things come organically. I was feeling very successful and confident in myself and the way I held myself. And I realized that I was no longer interested, and this is also from my experiences, that I didn't need someone who was, wealthier than me or older than me, younger than me, blah, 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 to take care of me because I felt that I could do it on my own. And I just, I would rather continue living and romancing myself. And if people came along and experienced that part of me, it was wonderful. And if they were here for a short time, that's fine. And so cultivating your own version of romance is going to take time and it's going to change. It is so going to change. I, used to go clubbing for fun, and now I'd rather sit in a speakeasy and enjoy my espresso martini or a glass of red over a steak dinner. I would also rather, book a flight and go away for the weekend. You know, things are going to change for you. And that's not to say that, you need to book your own steak dinner. I would really love to learn how to do that and cook it at home because I love cooking. So what does your own version of romance look like? And you're probably thinking, okay, well, how do I do this? Even if you're in partnership, you know, learn their language, ask them. Sometimes it may have been a while since you've had a date night. Life gets really busy, but that doesn't mean you're unworthy of being pursued or dating or romance. Romance exists. Love exists. How do you want it to show up? What thoughts or feelings come up when I'm asking you these questions? Does it make you nervous? Does it make you uncomfortable? These things are important because deep down we all want this. We really do. We want the lovey-dovey chick flick. It's just our own version, whether it's dark and sultry or spicy and sensual, or the fireworks and the rooftop and the popping of the champagne, or maybe it's just silk blankets and getting lost. Maybe it's sweat. Like it's all different. And that's the best part. It gets to be yours. Love gets to be your own version. We're no longer, you know, following the traditional dating rules, if that makes sense. Modern love is evolving, and love is without limits. So I'm going to leave you today with a couple of tips on how you can create Valentine's Day every day and not just around the month. One, identify what it is that romance feels and looks like for you. Are you into the sensual, sultry vibe? Do you like the candles? Are you more into flowers? Very, poppy and bright. Identify Pinterest boards, journaling, voice memos. Just write it out, put it out there. And I'm not saying you have to go back. It's just really good to kind of get your brain thinking about this because once you start this imagination process, this begins, you're going to start looking for it. Having some of these questions and discussions can be hard. However, this kind of goes back to what I'm saying. Like we were kind of programmed in a way about what we thought love looked like. And for most of us, it's not how it really turned out to be. It was like, oh, this whole time I thought I had to play dead, but I would rather be independent and a badass and hold myself up with confidence than settle for breadcrumbs. And so put it out there. Put it out there on what you want. Second, plan those date nights. It starts very small. Whether you are single, you're in a relationship, you're in a situationship, you need to prioritize yourself in some small ways. Half hour here, an hour there. Start small. And for those of you who are learning to date yourself, the first hurdle is the hardest. When you do have that dinner on your own, it's one of my favorite stories. You can go back and listen to one of my very first episodes of the podcast. Going out to dinner on my own was embarrassing and it was scary. And the moment I was in it and enjoying my dinner, I recognize it's not so bad. I'm actually, it does create a sense of courage and bravery. Now, if you're in a partnership and you're trying to keep the romance alive, sit down with your partner and be like, what is it that you need right now? What can I do for you? Or maybe this is a conversation you'd like to have with them. Be like, hey, I think one of the great other episodes I had was with Kat, and she talked about the check-ins with your partner. It's very important, especially if you love them. And finally, after you schedule those date nights, let's take some action, okay? Because we can talk about this. We need to elicit action. And for me, it's literally putting it in the calendar. You have something to look forward to. The more you schedule date nights, or even for couples scheduling sex, it's like, oh, are we really doing this? Yes. Yes, you are. And so this Valentine's Day, for even this Valentine's month, I challenge you to, pursue yourself, pursue your partner. Just go do a little bit more than usual. You might be surprised by what comes from it. And if you're navigating a relationship, you're dating, or you're single, or you're just like, I'm not really interested in a partner, that is okay. This whole episode is not to say like, you need to have a partner. No, this whole episode is for you to understand that what we thought love used to look like, or what we thought these older versions of love was, it's not genuine, not to you. You are able to cultivate your own version of love, and it gets to be that cute, as I said, corny romance. Romance is amazing. How delicious does that sound? It sounds great, right? So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and Happy Valentine's Day if you celebrate it. And if you don't, happy self-loving, romantic, you're a badass, and I see you and sending you lots of love. This is just the beginning. We are in a new month. You are in a new era. We are all in different chapters, and I'm very excited for you to take this upon yourself to kind of chew back on this information and recognize that everybody is, creating their own sense of romance, and you deserve that. You absolutely do. So, thank you so much for listening to a mini solo episode of Love and Lattes and how love is without limits. And may I please remind you that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valuable, and have a great day. See you in the next episode.